Hello and welcome to live post-match reaction to the Pumas versus the All Blacks. Hopefully you got all that and it went live and I thought it went live. If not, you've just missed me saying, hey, welcome to the Pumas versus the All Blacks live post-match reaction. The All Blacks obviously won it 17-35 in the end. Yeah, the Pumas will be very disappointed in their inability to really pick up points. But welcome, Shane. Been a while. How are you doing?
Oh, good, Paul. How are you? Sorry, a bit late, but I'm excited to be back on and having a yarn with you.
Well, we'll have to keep this one tight as I've got to jump in the car and drive off to Counties next for Counties versus Northland. Busy weekend of games for me. But Argentina started very well, didn't they? And the All Blacks line-out was all over the shop early doors. And Argentina took the lead with a penalty, taking the 3.
Yeah, when you get into the rugby games like this, you want to get a quick start, and I think it was in the first 5 minutes or so the penalty came and slotted over for 3, and we thought, maybe we're going to have a look at a good contest today. Well, after the kickoff again, knowing the All Blacks.
Well, they finally got a line out right, didn't they? It took them a while. It was their third line out before they actually managed to nail one. And when they did, they've got a first phase move that puts Rico over in the corner. Rico Iwani, he gets 2 tries in this one, 19 caps, 20 tries. He's something special, isn't he?
Blistering, Paul. Blistering. He was pretty good today. In fact, I think he was exceptional. With those runs to the line, and it was a pretty easy play, wasn't it? Just to Rico, and he sprints over to get the All Blacks started.
Yes, he did, and that's not what I wanted to do. And he did, yeah. He got over to get the as you say, to get the All Blacks started. The Pumas didn't help themselves after that. I mean, they kept going for 3, which is which we can understand.
Yes, he did, and
that's not what I wanted. Yeah, they missed the penalty there, and it's rare to see Sanchez hook one like that.
Yeah, shockingly. I don't think. I think from memory, it was well out to the left, wasn't it?
It was well missed. It was a very poor one, and after obviously Mr. Bowden Barrett came back and had 100% nights, which seems to be his want. He either seems to be fully on or fully off. Yeah, it was contrasting to see Sanchez miss one when we kind of were expecting the kicking to be good on their side, but the All Blacks to be, hey, who knew what was going to happen?
Yeah, that's true. And as I've always believed with the All Blacks, and I've known from an experienced Wallabies fans, that if they don't kick conversions, they certainly will get the tries to beat you. No, I thought Bowden played pretty well tonight with his kicking.
Yeah, and in the live chat, I mean, Chris was saying that Argentina were quite poor in the first half. I think they failed to take their chances. When I looked at the stats at around about half time, when I looked at clean breaks, when I looked at players beaten, when I looked at offloads, when I looked at actually turnovers conceded, it was pretty similar across the board. The difference was that the All Blacks are clinical and took their points, whereas the Pumas just didn't. I mean, they had that big stand push for the last, felt like 10 minutes, but probably was slightly less than that of the half, and just didn't come away with points. It was the clinicalness that was the difference in that first half, wasn't it?
It was. Just looking at the All Blacks' defence, you knew they could sit back and their line speed and the trust in the mate next to them certainly kept the Argentinians out. The Argentinians, it has to be said, had their chances tonight.
They did, but I mean, if we look at the All Blacks tries in that first half, we've got the line-out first phase score. We've got first phase off the back of a scrum, which had a bit of a fumble, and it was all a bit messy, but Nholo powered over. And then we had Rico running it in after the Pumas spilt it out of the side of a ruck, so turnover ball. These weren't multi-phase constructed tries by the All Blacks either. The All Blacks were
just took opportunity and the chances.
Taking opportunities when they had the chances. Yeah, I say this wasn't kind of. I mean, there was a lovely tweet I read midway through the thing about let's go back to sort of rugby cliches when talking about, or rugby basics when talking about the Wallabies, of like, you've got to earn the right to go wide and all this kind of stuff. And like, yeah, we're not seeing that from the All Blacks. This right to go wide thing is a bit of a myth, I think, nowadays.
Yeah, rugby union is all about making sure that you take the most of what you've got, and you know, even with the Wallabies and the right to go wide, the Springboks defence was pretty much apt to what the Wallabies were doing in the second half. It's been a long morning, but you know, the All Blacks. The All Blacks are, well, the best in the world for a reason, and part of that has to do with their counter-attacking rugby. There was nothing beautiful, certainly, about this game, but gee, they were effective when they needed to be, Paul.
They were, and it's so the cliche now isn't about earning the right to go wide. The cliche now is spotting where there's space and getting the ball to where the space is. Now that can be on first phase, that can be on 25th phase, that can be right next to the ruck, or it can be wide out, not wide out wide. The other cliche is finding mismatches. It's about finding mismatches, about space. It's not about going through the phases, tying players into the ruck, because players don't commit to the ruck anymore. So those sort of things aren't what we're talking. Really, if you look at the All Blacks, they don't do that. The Pumas did try to do that, go through the phases a bit and try and tie players in. But if the opposition's only going to commit one player to the ruck, they're still going to have 14 players on their feet spread across the field. So you're not creating those spaces. What they can do from that, though, is create front foot, quick ball sometimes, and that's when the Argentinians started to make breaks and started to look dangerous.
Yeah, and people like Sanchez were creating a lot of those half chances. You could see that, as you've mentioned numerous times, and I totally agree, the development of him with the Juarez squad in Super Rugby is starting to rub off a little bit in Test match rugby as well. He was probably their best out there, I thought, when he had the ball in hand. He was very dangerous.
Yeah, and as the Kiwi commentator said in the start of the second half, was that it looked like he took the game on his shoulders and said, right, I've got to make this happen. Now, sometimes that means players can try a bit too much. But I thought on the whole, he was trying the right things. Perhaps they're just not coming off. I mean, one of the classic ones was that 5-meter penalty. He spots Naholo's come in. He's got a player out wide. He goes for that crossfield kick, but he doesn't get enough length on it, and Naholo just picks it up easily. Bad execution to what would have been a great play if he'd got it a little bit further, because just over the top of Naholo, and then the Argentinian winger gets an easy try.
I scratched my head at that play. It was almost like going back to the Halkade playbook with Argentina, where a little bit of frustration sets in. I think, that was done in a bit of desperation to try and, see if we can get a bonus point out of it and try to take advantage. But the sensible thing would have been to have probably taken a tap kick and try to get your forwards over.
Yeah, well, I think the forwards were all expecting him to kick to the other side and kick to the corner for a line out. And to be fair to Argentina, I'll bring up the stats, but their line out, it wasn't clean by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, they failed 4 times out of 16, so 68% with the line out. I can understand why he was trying something different. And I think he could have put if he got a bit more height and length, he could have pulled it off. Unfortunately, that's not what happened. You're right; it caused a lot of people to scratch their heads because there was a player off screen that everyone kind of missed.
That being said, Paul, I've got to say, I thought the Argentinians were the better side in the second half. I thought they came out, and I think Ledesma probably had some stringent words about a few things, and I can't fault the effort overall from them. There was some frustrating things, but I can't fault the effort at all.
No, and they drew the second half 14-all. If we use the old cliche, starting from 0 at half time, and they had probably the better of it up to the straight after half time. It took the All Blacks about 15 minutes before Patrick Tuipulotu, who's come back from injury and is a bit of a try-scoring machine now, got a hat trick for Auckland in the Mitre 10 Cup before getting called up as a replacement for gone blank. Best player on the planet, I can't remember his name, who's off injured at the moment. Second row All Blacks. Anyway, doesn't matter. No. The injured one plays for the Chiefs.
Liam Squire.
Chiefs.
No, sorry.
Anyway, having an absolute brain fart there. Sorry about that. But Patrick's come in and bashed over well from not far out. Brody Retallick, of course, is who I'm thinking of. Let's say best player on the planet. I can't remember his name.
He's an okay. Sorry, no, he's a Chief. Sorry,
he's a Chief. Yes, jeez.
We're both having brain farts this morning.
We are, absolutely. More coffee. So they did that. Argentina came close after straight from the kickoff, and eventually barged their way over. Took them a few goes, and this was a rare case of where players weren't diving around the ball to block the camera angle, which meant we had a good TMO replay.
Well, the second try for Argentina, I think there was a bit of disagreement there between the referees and his assistants and his TMO. Certainly looked like a bit of a double movement there and a penalty to the All Blacks, but yeah.
I thought the movement would have been very harsh. I thought, all the players on top pushing either way, gives you the momentum to get over. I would have found that one a bit harsh.
But it reminded me of better times as a Wallaby fan when Kurandrani scored against the Springboks in 2015, and you only got the faintest camera angle, but he got over. Well, and that's all that counts.
It is all that counts. And I say, I was a bit surprised we didn't have more bodies diving in front of the cameras to try and stop it. They then backed up with another try where a kick through, a rare Bowden Barrett error, allowed the kick through again. And they spotted the space out wide after a couple of phases and put the player over. That Sanchez had his kicking boots on for that one. That closed it down to 17-28, and it's still 2 scores gap, but we did have some. The Argentina did have if they got another try, then that would have suddenly made it interesting, as it would have closed it with one score. As it was, they couldn't force that extra score to make it interesting, and the All Blacks saw out the game. And Richard Mwanga was a big part of that. Came on and managed to spark things quite nicely.
Yeah, well, it just shows you, and I'm a big fan of Mwanga actually, and I know that you've got Bowden Barrett, you've got Mwanga, you've got the real depth of 10s in New Zealand that we don't actually have in Australia. But it shows you that the fella can just make an impact when he came on. And I noticed Jeff Wilson had said, sorry, not Jeff Wilson, Justin Marshall had said that Mwanga's come on and made instant impact when he did, and he ought to be proud of his efforts there. And a big shout out, if I could, to Angus Tauvau for making his test debut. Well done, mate. Played pretty well too.
Yeah, no, and it was fantastic, as I said on commentary, that we had 2 All Blacks props who at the turn of the year didn't have contracts. So here's 2 guys that have gone from playing club Mitre 10 Cup rugby. So the guys who aren't Super Rugby players in Mitre 10 Cup are part-timers. They have to hold down a full-time job as well. These guys have gone from being part-time rugby players to being capped by the All Blacks in basically 8 months or 9 months, which is an amazing feat. Congratulations to both of them. And shows you that, hey, if you keep trying, maybe, just maybe, you can. The late bloomer does get given an opportunity.
Big Carl's a hero of mine. He's like a cult figure, isn't he? He just gets through the work, and he deserves some accolades. He has had a fantastic Rugby Championship and Test series along with his Super Rugby season.
He has, and when we get onto the stats later, his tackling stats are pretty impressive in this game. A bit of home ground advantage in this one. There were a couple of calls where the fans clearly weren't happy with them. Cody Taylor obviously catching, getting pushed over and catching the player with his knee to the head, which caused the ball to come loose for Rico's second try. There was another time where there were a lot of calls from the crowd thinking it was a high tackle, but wasn't. And third time lucky, we had Beauden Barrett, or we had Sanchez breaking in the second half. Beauden Barrett goes in at an acceptable height. Crawley comes over the shoulder but slides down, so not really high. And they replay that several times. It's kind of like, okay, how do we find a call here for the Pumas? It felt like to me, rather than actually there was anything clearly done wrong by either player.
Well, the home crowd comes into it, doesn't it, Paul? I mean, the blatant one with the knee to the head was a push by the Argentinian player. There was nothing. Certainly, if that was on purpose, we don't condone that, but it certainly wasn't. It was Crevy pushing the bloke out of the road. That was totally accidental. I think there was a couple of high shots from called high shots in the end after. And I've got to give the referee a lot of credit here. At least he went to the TMO to make some of those decisions rather than take the home crowd into it. Yeah, there was a couple of shots there that weren't really that high. And on replay, it showed they weren't really that high.
No, and it was interesting that they end up saying that Beauden Barrett hadn't used his arms. It's like, well, hang on, his arm was the thing that made contact. So how you can say it wasn't the shoulder charge by any stretch. But he decided that because the other arm hadn't come round, which you don't see in probably about half the tackles you see. The referee decided to call it that way, which was understandable. Which was I say a home call, definitely. There was another home call later on, which was interesting, where basically the TV replays decided not to show at all Levinelli's late hit on Beauden Barrett as he kicked the ball. He kicks the ball, and there's time for replay, and suddenly we go to a replay of the previous try, which was kind of interesting.
I just shook my head when I saw that. It was, and I'm not showing any, trans-Tasman bias here, but that was pretty late.
It was pretty late, and he got away with it. Admittedly, it was more a push.
I don't think it was anything harmful, though.
It wasn't anything particularly harmful in it, but it was late contact, and he did push the player over. But I'd say it was kind of we definitely had local the local TV officials deciding what was going to be replayed and what wasn't by that point, and they'd had enough. The game was over at that point. Anyway, it didn't really matter. And as you say, no one particularly got hurt from it. So in the end, comfortable victory for the All Blacks. Beauden Barrett comes back to kicking. Argentina aren't as clinical as the All Blacks, and that's basically in short the story of the game.
Yeah, it is. And if I could say so, congratulations to the All Blacks. 6 Rugby Championships in 7 years, or back to back to back, the last 3. As an Aussie, it is probably a little frustrating at times to see such domination, but you got to hand it to a team that's well drilled in their skills and their confidence, and good on the Argentinians for their second half. They're a side that's, well, they've beaten us, so they're definitely improving. So, they ought to still be proud of what they've done in this Rugby Championship. I think it's good to see.
It is good to see. So let's just run through some of the stats. So it's five clean breaks to 9 clean breaks. Argentina to New Zealand. In the end, I say at halftime it was even. Defenders beaten 20-21. Offloads 9 each. Turnovers conceded 18 by Argentina, 16 by the All Blacks. So I say not that massive discrepancy of in the stats. On the possession and territory, it was in the Argentinians' favour in the first half and New Zealand in the second, but ended up being 53% possession and 54% territory to Argentina. So again, pretty even. Where things are a bit different is in the tackling stats. 84 tackles attempted by Argentina, 63 successful, or 75%. That's 1 in 4, which is not 3 in 4. So 1 in 4 is missed. That's not great. New Zealand 112 from their 132 tackles, 85%. So that tells you a bit of difference, a 10% difference in tackling success rate, even though they both missed the same number, which is a big difference. Line-outs, again, 68%, we mentioned earlier, from Argentina. And whilst the stats say they won 4 out of 5 of their scrums, their scrum was going backwards a lot. So the set piece is really a worry for them. Whereas New Zealand set piece, pretty solid after they missed those first 2 line-outs early on.
Well, I only wanted to make one point on that scrum. Yeah, a lot of the time the Argentinian forwards were going backwards, and to be honest, actually make 2 points. Coffee. The second try that the All Blacks had from that scrum was a beautiful scrum. I was screaming out, penalty try, penalty try. Why won't you go to the posts and award a penalty try? The counterclockwise nature of the Argentinian forwards, and the head started to pop out, and you thought, well, hang on, he's played advantage. You might as well go to the sticks and award this. It was a try anyway, due to other circumstances, but and secondly, Argentina got a penalty from a scrum that they themselves had the feed for and were going backwards, and were pretty lucky to get it, actually. So, certain aspects that's their bread and butter, their pride and joy, and they've got to, well, I think they'll fix that for next week against the Wallabies. They'll be right.
Yeah, they need to. So it's definitely an area of concern for them. On the all attacking stats, Rieko Ioane unsurprisingly tops the meters run made with 130, which is crazy. Obviously helped by the by that second try of his where the ball squirted out and he had a run in from pretty much halfway. Sanchez, interestingly enough, tops the meters run made by Argentina with 14 runs. He's also made more. He made the most runs out of any player, equal with Boffelli, which shows you again this idea that he took control of the game, took the game onto his shoulders and tried to turn things round. Apart from that, in the forwards, Matieres come back in, 13 runs for 45 meters. He got through a chunk of work as well. Anyone else on the attacking side that stood out for you?
I thought, Big Carl, the cult hero. He was fantastic with his work rate all over the park. He looks very fit. Certainly he's made massive inroads. Look, I thought it was just an all-round sort of performance from the All Blacks. So overall, I thought Mwanga, when he came on, obviously was really good. Proddy, well, just reliable, gets involved. Sonny Bill with a few offloads certainly was quite telling as well. So, but it's the All Blacks are a team. There's no iron team, and they played a team game, and good on them.
But there is me if you look hard enough. And I mean, Carl, as you said, got through 13 tackles. None of them missed. He was the only person to make more tackles than him was Shannon Frizzell with 20 tackles. He did miss one, but hey, if you've made 20, you're allowed to miss one. And Cody Taylor was the other person to also made 12 and was severe on 11. So those are the guys in double figures for the All Blacks. Matera, not only did he get through a chunk of work carrying the ball, but he also got through 13 tackles as well. So a guy he was big on both the attack and defense. And has been a big player for both the Jaguares and the Pumas all season. And let's be honest. Creevy obviously got through his normal amount of work with ball in hand as well. Actually, he also carried quite a bit, which we'd kind of expect. And just finally on the discipline side, no one gave up more than 2 penalties, so I'm not going to bother. There's no one, no big nasty or player than that side. Cool. Any last points, or shall we wrap it up there?
I just wanted to say, as well as a rugby fan, well done to TJ Perenara on 50 caps, and well done, son. Still the ever pest at the scrum and the breakdown, but I thought I'd just add that final note as well.
No, good point. Yep. Yeah, the 50 caps. I'm about to jump in the car and drive up to Counties, Manukau for Counties versus Northland. Unfortunately, they haven't given me a press pass, so I won't be able. Probably won't be able to do any interviews. But I'll still try and see what happens. It has been a big weekend of rugby, and Max, thank you very much for becoming a Patreon. So you also can become a Patreon by going to patreon.com/DrivingMaul. I'll put the link down below, and you can help support independent rugby. For as little as $1 a month. Max has gone in at $5 a month. So that's a coffee a month for me. Yay! Hopefully, I can be awake enough to actually get my facts straight rather than have the total brain blanks.
It's 80% of a hot chocolate for me.
Dear me. So yes, thank you very much, everybody, for watching. Subscribe, like, all of that kind of lovely, jubbly stuff. And I will be back later tonight with my wrap-up of the Mitre 10 Cup action for the round. I do have interviews from 3 games to play during that, so do dial in later. Thank you very much, Shane, for joining me, and catch you all next time.